Okay. Hello. I think we're almost live here. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about. Hello. Um, hello. I'm so happy to see everybody here and everybody saying hello. That's really great. Um, yeah, if you're ever on the live videos, I love it when you say hello. I love it when you let me know if you're resonating with what I'm saying, asking questions. That's all great. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the video. Welcome to the live. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about why I believe, in my experience, approval. So, looking for approval from other human beings, looking for love, looking for acceptance, looking for validation from other humans is a big part of what we would define as the matrix, right? So, when most of us think about the matrix, we think about the false reality, right? The reality that doesn't actually exist, the illusion, the illusory reality that, yeah, um, the the stuff that makes up what we are saying, like this is how the world works and this is how I get the results that I want. And here's how I would even define reality, right? So the illusory reality is the matrix, and the real reality is really kind of simply defined as understanding how we work and how the world around us works so that we can get our needs met, so that we can grow, so that we can thrive in this environment. Like for the context of our purposes as human beings, that's how I like to define reality. Reality is the medium in which we're all living in, as well as what we are, and how those two interact. Yes? So that we can get our needs met, so that we can grow and expand and live that joy experience of being a human, which is for us in the context of being alive, being a human. Joy comes from expanding on whatever we are, right? So I believe from my observation that we all have like a basic blueprint, like an oak tree has a basic blueprint, salmon has a basic blueprint, flower has a basic blueprint, and these things can't become anything. Yes, the reality is that salmon isn't going to do enough self-love work and personal growth work to become a black bear. An oak tree isn't going to do something enough to become a squirrel. It will either express its genetic potential through getting its needs met and being challenged in the right ways and all of these things. So the DNA that it is born with, the structure that it is given at like when it's that little seed, it will either express that potential or it will have to adapt in some ways so that that potential isn't fully reached, but it's going to continue to always strive to express its potential. Um, oh, the connection is freezing. Is everyone else experiencing that? Is the is that someone's poor Wi-Fi or is that my poor Wi-Fi? Can anyone just let me know if the connection is freezing for everyone else? Um, so this is how I would define like the joy experience for a human being is we want to express our genetic potential. And again, okay, cool. That genetic potential is not something that's like so super specific, like you are here to be a teacher or you are here to be a writer. And that is the only thing that you could possibly become. Because again, we are all interacting with a very complex reality. Yes, that's going to have an effect on us. We are at once a genetic potential, we have a base set of DNA, characteristics that we're born with, and we are affected by our environment. And that is going to alter and change the parts of ourselves that we grow and the parts of ourselves that we kind of let slide. And I also believe that all of us have multiple potentials of things that we could grow into. And just kind of depending on what we choose or what's nourished in us and nurtured in us, or the environment that we're raised in, the things that are celebrated, the things that are not so celebrated, a lot of us will choose a path or choose a couple of paths, and all of them are right. Like, all of them are us expressing our potential. And then on top of that, as we grow every part of ourselves, that part of self becomes exponentially more capable of expansion. So every time we take a part of ourselves, a part of our genetic potential, and we grow it to a degree, like we go through a growth experience, we allow it to mature, that then becomes capable of growing and becoming mature in a way that's like 2 times more than what it was the last time it grew. So it's like we can, if we think of it as like little sticks or adding onto a pattern, right? Every time you express out from the first stick, then you add 2 sticks, right? And then the next time you can expand out, you can add 4. And then the next time you expand out, you can add 8. So every time you grow, there's infinite potential for exponential growth. And that's kind of like why I say we are at once limited to what we have as a base set of genetic conditions, and then all the things that we're supported in and not supported in our environment. And that which we are is almost infinitely potential in what it can grow into, because every part of self that grows, every time we grow it, it has the potential to grow into something even more complex. Okay? So that's reality. And the greater reality, when we understand reality, and again, this is not something we like understand, so this is like a huge thing that I really want to, again, express. I don't believe we wake up to reality and then we understand reality. We are always going to be growing our awareness of ourselves and the reality. Okay? So when I say when we understand reality, what we really mean by that is we understand what we need, we understand how the greater world around us works, in order that we can meet those needs harmoniously with the reality around us. Okay? Understanding reality is understanding what we need to grow, understanding how the world around us works, so we can get those needs met in a harmonious way with the world around us. So we're not causing harm to ourselves, and we're not causing harm to the reality. Yes? And this is not something, again, that we wake up to and then we understand and then we just do that for the rest of our lives. We will constantly, for the rest of our lives, be bumping up against the limits of our understanding of reality. Okay? This is why I say pain will always be a part of this. Pain will always be a part of this, because all pain is letting us know is that we are operating in ways that are outside of how the reality actually works. We're causing harm to ourselves, we're causing harm to the world around us as we're attempting to get our needs met. That's what pain is. Pain is, and it can be also because we exist in a world with other people, yeah, that the way someone else is getting their need met, the way someone else is attempting to get their needs met, is infringing upon the reality around them. And we are a part of that reality around them. We are collateral damage in their misalignment. Okay? And that's what pain is. So not all of our pain is because of us, right? Sometimes we are in pain because we are literally experiencing being collateral damage for a world system that is out of sync with truth, that was built by people who don't understand, yes? And they think they're getting their needs met. They think this is how they get their needs met. They think they're having success. And the ripple effect is that people are suffering in order for them to get their needs met, and therefore, that is an out of alignment way of getting the need met. So sometimes our pain is, we are taking an action, this is not how reality works, we're bumping up against reality, yes? We're bumping up against our limits of reality, we're attempting to get a need met that we may not even understand, because this is, again, the being out of alignment with reality can come from multiple different sources. It can literally be we don't even know what we need. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing. We're doing what we're doing because there's, right, the genetic potential, the unconscious mind is trying to get its needs met in the only way it knows how, based on its conditioning, and it isn't how reality works. it's getting the need met a little bit, or this is all we know of how to get a need met, but then there's a negative consequence because partially it's not true. It's not how the reality works. We're breaking ourselves against reality in some way, right? We're doing it because it gets the need met better than doing nothing, because we don't really understand the need, or we don't understand any other way of getting the need met. So we're kind of addicted to it. But there's pain involved because it's not getting the need met within the bounds of actual reality, within harmony with real reality. And then usually, like I say, those actions are going to cause collateral damage around us. We're going to damage the planet, we're going to damage others, and then we can be experiencing the collateral damage of world systems or others living in ways that are out of alignment, them trying to get their needs met in ways that are out of alignment with reality, because we are interconnected. Yeah, we can be affected by that. So that is my 10-minute lecture on what reality is. So when I say the matrix, or the biggest false reality that all of us are operating under. So again, this is where we're in illusion, we're in delusion, we're in conditioning, we're in this is what we were told reality is. So what does that mean? Again, for our purposes as human beings who want to just grow and express our genetic potential and create and become new, that's really what we want. That's what all people want. That's why at the top of the hierarchy of needs is self-exploration, right? Self-expression. We try to get all these other big needs met so that we can self-actualize. That's what the human being wants to do. I'm not saying that's what all life wants to do. I'm not saying that is ultimate reality. That is the reality for human beings. So what makes us feel good, again, is that expressing of the self. And how we get that is through constantly upgrading how we understand ourselves, how we know how to get our needs met, what our needs are, because again, as we grow, our needs change. That's what we need to understand. That's why we're never going to wake up to reality and then understand it. Because as we become more complex, our needs become more complex. What is in alignment for us, as in what we need to do in order to be continually nourishing the ever-evolving being that we are within the bounds of the reality that we exist in, change with us. That's why when everyone awakens, it's not going to look the same. Like everyone's, oh, I woke up to reality and this is how I realized I need to be living my life. This is what I realized I need to be doing for myself. This is what I realized is the right way. It's going to be different for all of us, because we all have a different genetic potential. There are going to be themes, because we're all living within the same reality. But what we all need within that same reality, how to get our needs met within that same reality, is different for all of us. Okay, so this is why there isn't a awakening that we can all share, right? So like when I say like, I've awakened to reality, I can't tell you what I did or what I realized very specifically and have that be what's going to liberate you in your life. Because what you need and what you're here to grow into, like again, I can tell you the general things that seem to be the theme that all of us are existing in, right? But I can't tell you specifically what reality is, specifically. Because what reality is for you and your complexity will share some things with me, but it's not going to be exactly what mine is, right? I can't say, you all need to move to Asia and become online spiritual teachers. That was in alignment for me. That was me waking up to reality. But that's not going to serve everyone else. That's not going to really serve anyone else. So that's why, again, like a lot of the time when people specifically ask me, like, what do you need? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. Because it doesn't matter. It literally would make no difference. And if you started to try to like just copy me, it would take you farther away from reality. Because the biggest matrix that we're all living under is the consensus reality matrix. Okay. So understanding that that's what reality is, understanding that's what alignment with reality is, and that's why we don't wake up to it, because it's going to be continually changing. We wake up to how to wake up to it. Okay, so that is a thing that can happen. Though when we realize how to figure out reality, that is an awakening and a revelation that we will keep forever. When you finally understand how to use pain and use pleasure to determine, is this helping me grow, or is this me bumping up against reality and breaking myself against reality? When you figure out how to use your tools of feeling and emotion and observation, that's an awakening. Okay? Understanding how to interpret reality is an awakening experience. And then you will use that tool over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for the rest of your life. And the thing is, you already have a tool you're attempting to use to do this, and it's not working. And that's why so many of us are in pain. So this is why I say, the awakening is not, now you never experience pain again. Now you understand absolutely everything. Now you never have a negative emotion again. Now you never have a negative experience again. You're just in bliss for the rest of your life. Absolutely not. Because in order to be alive, you have to be continually growing. In order to be growing, you have to be continually challenging what you understand. You have to be continually having an experience of a new you, a new reality, a new layer of reality you weren't aware of before because you weren't complex enough to see it. Because that's the other thing. Reality isn't getting more complex, but as you get more complex, your capacity to see the complexity of reality increases. So we're constantly going to be in a state of being like, okay, I thought I understood, and then I see this whole other layer that I didn't even see before. And then you get used to that, and you get comfortable with that, and you start to live in alignment with that, and that all feels good, and then you grow again, and then you're plunged into darkness again, right? This is why we're going to constantly be in the wilderness experience over and over again. We're going to face the unknown, the literal void of like, holy shit, what I was doing was working and working and working, and then it wasn't anymore, and now this next step, I literally have no idea what I'm stepping into. I am stepping into the void. We're going to have pain because we're going to attempt to get needs met in our old way of understanding. Okay? So we're going to have our how we were getting our needs met, and there was going to be pain and pleasure and all of that, and then we're going to grow, and then we're going to understand something, and then we're going to see, okay, now my needs have evolved. Now my self has evolved. And we're going to attempt to get our needs met in the old way, in ways that used to work. And it's not going to work anymore because we're more complex now. But we're not going to have the requisite information to really understand how to get our needs met yet. And we're going to have to go and have pain and attempt to get our needs met and even not understand what our needs even are. And we're going to have to use our tools, like the tools I teach in the mystery school, the tools I teach here, of connecting with our emotions, observing cause and effect, making ourselves a safe space so that we can understand, okay, well, what is hurting here? Why am I hurting? What around me is hurting? And this is where we're going to start to really understand that so much of our pain, so much of the false reality we live in, comes from the conditioned reality we were all told that this is what reality is. This is how you have to be good. This is how you have to be to get your needs met. This is how reality works. And it hurts. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't give us what we need. And we have no idea of anything else. We've never seen anything else because our perception machine, that's how it works. And we have to use our tools of, okay, I can't go to people to tell me what the answer is. I'm going to have to use my detective skills of pain, pleasure, emotion, cause and effect to see what actually works, what actually causes pain, what actually causes pleasure, and dissect that from the consensus reality pain. Yeah. Okay? So we're going to grow. We're going to continually step into the void. We're going to continually have pain. But again, when you learn the tools for how to dissect reality, those base tools you will carry with you for the rest of your life, right? It's like, again, like a mountain climber has a base set of skills that they use in every mountain. Like there comes a point where the variation becomes less and less, and you're not having to learn a whole new set of skills every time you climb a mountain. You have the foundations, and you use those tools over and over and over again. When you become proficient at any skill, playing the piano, playing the guitar, cooking, right? There are foundational skills. That's why every beginner course on anything you ever do teaches you the foundational skills. Because yeah, we're going to learn new things. We're going to learn new tools. Things are going to get more complicated, and there's going to be different techniques for different layers of mastery. But ultimately, you're going to be using the same foundational tools. The master pianist and the little 2-year-old who's just starting uses the same tools. They use the same foundational tools. You can be a master pianist and you're still using the stuff you learned in that very first lesson. Because the basics take you everywhere. They get more complex, you build on them and all this, yes. But these foundational tools of understanding pain and pleasure, understanding how our emotions work, observing cause and effect, you're just going to use that over and over and over again for the rest of your life in a million different situations and a million different contexts. So this is why when we learn these basic tools, we don't keep looking for more tools. It's keep applying those tools, keep practicing. They get deeper and stronger, and it just takes you farther and farther and farther. A master is someone who has practiced the foundations way more than a beginner. That's the difference. It's not necessarily so much more advanced technique. It's not necessarily so much more advanced anything. They're just more advanced because they've been practicing the tools so much longer. They have deepened, they have strengthened, they have become so much stronger. Okay, now, let's boil down this back. That was the intro, the 22-minute intro. So, what I am saying again, that the matrix, the reason we're all not already living like this, the reason we're not all already just living, okay, that hurts, why did that hurt? What is this showing me about my reality that isn't true? What is this showing me about my perception that isn't true? What is this showing me about something that I need, that I didn't realize I needed, and how I get my need met in reality that I'm not getting met in reality currently? Why do we not use just cause and effect? Right? When we're all like, is this going to be right? Is this the right diet? Should I try this? Should I do this? What's the right thing? Why are we all doing that? When we all have the tools of just trying something, seeing if it works. If it doesn't, try something else. If it does, keep going. Why don't we have the capacity to say, okay, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? What is it that I desire? How do I get that met? And when I'm in pain, am I in pain because I'm not getting something met? Am I in pain because I'm collateral damage from someone else? Why are we not just all constantly questioning our reality, observing cause and effect of our actions, and changing based on that? Because it would seem kind of simple, right? Like when I put it like that, it seems like, yeah, okay, that doesn't actually seem that hard at all. Why can't I just feel pain, observe reality, change, see if that works, see what my needs are, see how to get them met in reality in a way that doesn't cause harm? If that's all it is, if that's what being awake is, why are we not all doing that? Because, for many reasons, but this is one of the more important reasons. One of the main reasons why we are not doing that. And yes, if you've been listening to my content for a while, you're going to be like, she's always saying this. Say something new. No, because this is so important. This is it. When you understand this, it will shake you to your core. It will be the craziest journey you've ever been on, the most intense journey you've ever been on. Like, understanding this is the key foundation for most of us for getting onto where we want to get to, where we can start to actually have a one-to-one relationship with real reality, which is where we start to actually have freedom. When we're interacting with real reality, there isn't a middleman. This is where we can start to say, okay, cause and effect, pain, pleasure, what's actually working, what do I need, what am I actually feeling, can I dissect my emotions, can I understand why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling, and validate myself and realize I have a good reason to feel that way, and oh, that's my emotional guidance system telling me something's out of alignment, even though it's true to everyone else, and it's what I was told, and the only thing I know, and all of my perception is telling me it's true, but my body is saying no, reality is saying no, so therefore, one-to-one relationship with reality, I need to change, and that's okay. Why are we not having that? Okay? Because in our childhoods, yes, I'm going there, don't leave. Listen, I lose a lot of people on this, and I really want you to just don't. Stay for a second. Just really, if you want to click away right now, don't. Just challenge yourself to stay for the next 5 minutes and just really consider this. Okay? In our childhoods, we did not have agency. We did not have the capacity to understand our own needs. We did not have the capacity to understand the reality around us. We did not have the capacity to meet our own needs. We did not have a one-to-one relationship with reality. We couldn't, because we didn't have any of the base skills to be able to interact with reality and survive. We were 100% dependent upon our caregivers to meet our needs, to understand what we needed, to understand how reality worked for us, so they could get our needs met for us. We did not have a one-to-one relationship with reality. As babies, as children, when we were learning and growing and getting imprinted, so our brains were in that state of literal hypnosis, where we were learning, this is how reality works. Our bodies, our nervous systems were programming in information because our cognition wasn't developed yet. We did not have fully developed brains, logic, reason, capacity to say, oh, mom and dad are doing this, but it's not real. That's their conditioning. That doesn't make sense. We did not have that capacity. We were programming in our bodies and in our nervous systems, this is what reality is, this is what you have to do and be in order to get your needs met. Please understand how profound that is. Okay? We were in a state of hypnosis, and we were learning in our bodies. Okay? Learning in our bodies how reality works, what was reality and what wasn't. Not in our minds, not in our logic. And we did not have a one-to-one relationship with reality. We did not have a cause and effect relationship with how reality actually worked. We were fully under the dictatorship of our caregivers. So, if you were naturally this way, expressive in this way, or had this need, or had this desire, and your caregivers didn't like that, you weren't in a one-to-one relationship with reality, where reality, because this is how real reality works, when you are expressing what is true to you, it feels good. When we're in a complete one-to-one relationship with reality, you expressing what feels good to you feels good. When you get your needs met, it feels good. When you don't get your needs met, it feels bad. If we were completely unconditioned, no human being would be addicted to anything. No human being would be coping or self-sabotaging or scapegoating or having shame or guilt. We would have pain, we would have pleasure, we would make mistakes, but if we were unconditioned, we would always follow that thing that helped us express our potential, and anything that didn't would feel bad, and we wouldn't want to do it. That is how it would be if we were unconditioned. If we just had a one-to-one relationship with pain and pleasure. And we all know people who have less conditioning, who just like don't have a problem with food. Like they eat till when they're hungry, they stop when they're full, and they just move on with their day. Because that's the body regulating, they're not conditioned. When people just express their opinion, or express their artisticness, or what they want to say, or what they want to do, and they're very empathic, and they're very caring for other people, and they just kind of go with the flow. Or they're very organized, and they know what they want, and they go for it, whether people like them or not. That's what it's like to be unconditioned. And when we're unconditioned, what is good for us, we want to do it. And what is bad for us, we don't want to. We're not using discipline. This is why I say when we're using white knuckle to make ourselves do something, we're still operating in conditioning. Because in real reality, when you have a one-to-one relationship with reality, you don't want to do things that harm you because it doesn't feel good. And if you're doing something that sort of feels good and sort of causes harm, what you would naturally do is, okay, what is the need that's being met? So the part that feels good, what's good about it? How is it helping me? How is this behavior giving me something that I do need and that I do want? We don't just try to cut it off. Because if there's pleasure involved, we look at where that pleasure is coming from. And then we look at the pain part and we go, okay, but where's the misalignment? So how can I shift so that I'm still getting the need met, so the part that feels good, without the misalignment? That's how we would do that. We don't want to do things that hurt us. We don't not want to do things that are good for us. The reason all of that stuff happens, the reason we don't know what our needs are, like I don't know what I need. I don't know what's conditioning and it's not conditioning. The reason we don't want to do the things that are good for us, the reason we really want to do the things that have harm for us, is because we were conditioned. And what that means is, again, in that childhood state where we had no autonomy, and we were being trained that this is what you have to do and be in order to get your needs met. The first program that was programmed into our bodies, the very first program was, you need to be loved in order to get what you need. Because in order for our caregivers to care for us, they had to love us, therefore understand us, empath us, and meet our needs for us. We couldn't make a request. We couldn't say, I am hungry, can you please feed me, mommy? We just cried because we were in pain and we didn't know where that pain was coming from. We didn't know why we were in pain. And we perceived, mommy loves me, mommy empathed me, mommy did a thing, and then my pain went away. And then the opposite is true. I'm in pain, I do a thing, mommy withdraws, I'm stuck in my pain. I'm in pain, I'm expressing, mommy yells at me, now I'm in pain. We got programmed into our nervous system that any behavior, any part of self, any need, anything we did or didn't do that got us rejected was an existential threat to us. Okay? Not like, oh, well, I have a little bit of trauma around this thing because like my mom didn't like it and she yelled at me, but like no big deal. No, huge deal. Everything that was rejected in us from 0 to 10, 12 got programmed into our bodies, so not even your conscious mind, your body, as being that is a threat to your survival. You do that, mom pulls away, dad pulls away, caregiver pulls away. Caregiver is source of everything, aka I now don't get my needs met. We learned first and foremost that needs and pain. So needs getting met, pain going away, pleasure being given, comes through the middleman of caregivers loving us, caregivers understanding us and meeting our need, caregiver understanding us and supporting us growing and expressing. Caregivers pulls away, get angry, yells at us, abandons us, scapegoats us, blames us, shames us, right? Any of us feeling parent aggression, parent withdrawal, caregiver aggression, caregiver withdrawal, got programmed into your body, this thing is going to kill you. Like, there's no other way to say it. This part of you, that behavior is going to cause you to die. Don't do that. Never do that again. Even though it's your natural self. In real reality, it's what you need to express to survive. Okay, so now we get into this is why it's so twisted. Because when you're not expressing your potential, when you're not growing yourself, so this even goes for these growth stages where we made mistakes, we made messes, we hit other children, we yelled, we went through rebellious phases, we spilled the milk everywhere. What we needed in those moments was to be taught why certain things are harmful, why certain things don't work. And I've talked about this in many of my other videos, right? When the child is in the phase when they're hitting other kids, we need to understand, okay, from the 2-year-old perspective, this is how they get their need met. They wanted the toy. They don't understand what sharing is. They didn't know, right? They didn't know what the next better thing to do was. So hitting a kid gets the toy, there's a little bit of pleasure. But then if I empath, right, if I look at the other child as a human being, still connected to my humanity as a 2-year-old, it's not going to feel good to see the other child crying. So a loving parent would have said, okay, little Johnny, little whoever, I can see that you wanted the toy. I can see that the other kid had the toy. So the way that you knew to problem solve that was to hit them so you could have the toy. That's totally reasonable for your level of development. I'm going to support you in getting to your next level of development, not by yelling at you or shaming you or telling you how horrible that was. Because again, they didn't have another option. At that age, we didn't know that sharing was a thing. We needed to be taught. We weren't just choosing to be violent because we were bad, evil kids. That was just a growth phase that, again, if we were supported and, okay, can you feel the parts of that felt good, getting the toy? Can you feel the parts of that didn't feel good, the crying? Okay, so can we try a new strategy? What if they get to play with the toy for 5 minutes and then you get to play with the toy for 5 minutes and then no one has to cry and everyone gets the toy? The child would have learned in their body, sharing feels better because I still get the pleasure of playing with the toy just like I did when I hit them. But now there isn't the pain of the other child crying. So I would prefer to do the sharing because that's just pleasure, pleasure. The hitting is pleasure, pain. So I would prefer in my body to do pleasure, pleasure than pleasure, pain. That's how reality works. When we're growing and expressing ourselves, and we're learning how to dance, and we're dramatic, and we're all of these personality characteristics of us in our childhoods. That's us growing. It feels good because that's who we are, that's our expression, and we need to keep doing that. When it's shut down, again, the temporary reality of our childhood is we have to shut it down. We get yelled at for a behavior, we stop doing it. We learn to stop doing it. We get yelled at for having a certain need, we shut down. Or we start to learn these sneaky ways of getting it met in other ways, in sneaky ways, in self-harming ways that are a little bit more acceptable to shut down the way we're not allowed to be. Because again, in the short term, shutting down who we are and pretending to be something that we're not, because then it's the same on the other side. When we're approved of and loved and accepted for things that we aren't, for things that don't feel good to us, for behaviors that feel bad in our systems. That's also conditioning. That gets programmed in as you have to be this way. And if you aren't this way, you're gonna die. You have to be this thing. And if you don't live up to this expectation, you're gonna die. So then, right, in that temporary reality where we can't get our own needs met, living up to the expectations of our caregivers as at the expense of our true self, overall, is better for our survival. If we have to choose between true growth and true expression, and what it takes to be approved of in this temporary reality where we can't get our own needs met and we need approval to get our needs met, approval wins. That's what's programmed into our bodies. Then we grow into adulthood, and the rules totally change. We become capable, physically, mentally, and emotionally, of meeting our own needs. We become capable of understanding reality and how it works. We grow into a new phase, just like what we were talking about, right? Where now reality is different. How we get our needs met is actually different. So, right, the trauma of our childhoods, where we had to be accepted in order to live, that is true. And it's not true anymore. But the problem is, most of us keep living as though it is. Now as adults, we are all still living as though getting loved, getting approval, being understood by others and empathed by others and having them empathically meet our needs, we all are still acting like that's how we survive. And we're all chasing approval. And it's now a snake eating its own tail. Because in a perfect reality, we would have been perfectly unconditionally loved by our caregivers. We would have been unconditionally loved by our caregivers. And now, unconditional love does not mean the parent lets the child hit the other child and we just unconditionally love them and isn't that cute and we just celebrate that. Unconditional love of a parent is, again, when a child makes an error and we can see that's out of alignment with reality. We help them learn. We don't reject them. I still fully and completely love you. It's okay. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to withdraw from you. It's nothing like this. There's no guilt tripping. There's no shaming involved. It's just, okay, can we just observe reality? How does that feel? How does this feel? Does this feel better? Okay, let's do it this way. Great. Child learns there's no trauma. Child spills the milk all over the floor. Oops. That's right. You thought you were pouring it and you thought it was going to work one way and you're still learning how your body works. I'll help you clean it up. I'll teach you how to clean up your own mess. No shame, no guilt. And then I'll let you practice pouring again and pouring again. What were you trying to do? And what were you trying to learn? That's what unconditional love looks like. Child climbs up on top of something, doesn't know how to get down. You don't rescue them. You just help them figure it out. They become capable. They become strong. So eventually, like I say, and then when they're expressing their sexuality, their personality, their interests, you support them. So again, in that unconditional love environment, the child doesn't learn that just everything they are and everything they do is perfect. They learn how to learn. They learn that when something hurts, they need to figure something else out. What hurt? How can we change? How can we improve it so that it feels better? They learn empathy. They don't have to disconnect from their emotions. When they're really sad about something or really angry about something, we teach them how to embody that and to figure out why are you so angry and what hurts and how do we support that and love that. And sometimes we just have to ride it out because sometimes being human, we're just sad or we're just angry or we're just whatever. Sometimes it's an emotional guidance message of, I really didn't like how that person treated me. Can we have a conversation? Can we change boundaries? And we learn these things. Like, right? Unconditional love is not everything is perfect and I don't teach you anything. It is that you just never shame them and you allow them to grow into the things that they are, and you give them tools for growing the things that they're weak at. That's what unconditional love is. If we had been in that, we would get into our adulthoods and have a one-to-one relationship with reality. We would start to learn, okay, I'm hungry, how do I go get food? We stop asking mom and dad to feed us. We stop asking mom and dad for how to do these things, because mom and dad will eventually, at age-appropriate times, teach us how to do it. So by the time we're 18, 19, 20, we know how to understand why I'm in pain, how to understand, right? Because we're always going to have pain we don't understand. We're always going to have needs we don't understand. But now we have the tools of figuring it out. That's what being an awake or a conscious person is. You're not fully, absolutely aware of everything. You know how to figure it out. You don't have shame and guilt. Pain doesn't mean you're wrong and bad. Pleasure doesn't mean good. It just means growth. Like, it's a whole other relationship with reality. Okay? So that would be real reality. Most of us, again, we're operating in, if I am loved, I will be safe. And then, like I said, it's the snake eating its own tail. Because now, as adults, we're chasing this love from other people. Okay? We're chasing this love from other people because we have the faulty assumption that when I'm perfectly loved, I will be safe. And then I can be myself. So what we're all doing now, because, right, that's what we want. The ultimate thing is we want safety. Why? We want love. Why? We want to get our needs met. Why? Not just so we can have that stuff. There's an ultimate reason why we want it. Because when we have that, we can self-express. That's what we want. We want to grow into what we are. But now, the way we're trying to go about getting that need met is being what everyone else wants us to be so that they will love us. And in so doing, we have to not be ourselves. We have to not express our truth. We have to not grow. We have to do things that harm us, that are consensus reality, and not do things that feel good because they're not consensus reality. So it's impossible. Do you understand? If we lived in a world where everyone understood how reality worked, and what was approved of was the exact same thing as what real reality is, chasing being accepted wouldn't be a problem. Because they would be the same, one and the same thing. But that's not what it is. Now we all live in a world where people don't understand what real reality is. Consensus reality is not in alignment with real reality. In order to be accepted and approved of, you have to be going against what is true and what is right for yourself and for real reality. So we're trying to be accepted because in our nervous systems it got programmed in. When I am loved and accepted, I am safe, and therefore I can grow and express. You understand that? When you were loved and accepted by your parents, you got your needs met, and then you got to grow and express. Now we're chasing approval from everyone around us with the faulty understanding that when I'm approved of by everyone else, I will be safe. And then I can express my real self. Then I can have the pleasure that I really want. Because we don't just want acceptance and approval. A lot of us think that's what we want. We want to be loved. No, that's not what you want. Why do you want to be loved? Because it's programmed in that when you're loved, you will have your needs met, and then you'll be able to self-express. But in this reality, if you have to sacrifice yourself in order to be loved, it doesn't matter how loved you are. You will be in pain. You will be depressed. You will be not understanding how to get your needs met, what your needs are, why you feel the way you feel. You'll be constantly in inner state of conflict, addiction, self-sabotage, coping, numbing, trying to be something, thinking you're doing what you want to do, and then constantly not able to do it. You'll be in pain and you won't know why. Things will feel good, things will feel bad. You'll have no idea what your emotions are telling you. You feel like there are parts of you that are bad and wrong. You'll have shame and guilt. That's where all of this comes from. Because you were trained that there's a middleman between you and self-expression, and the middleman is somebody outside of you approving of you. You were trained that in order to get what you need, someone has to give it to you. Someone has to understand you and give you the answer or do it for you. You were trained to believe that when you are loved, then you are safe, and then you can express. And when you are rejected, when people don't understand you, when people don't approve of you, when you're not doing what everyone wants you to do, you're going to die. Do you understand how profound that is? And that's why inside, whenever you try to do something that's true to you, but you feel like you're going to get rejected, you feel like you're going to die. To the point where sometimes your brain won't even let you see what you actually want. Your brain doesn't even see the conditioning. It had to filter out any other option, right? We all think how we are living and what we think is right is reality, is what everyone thinks. It's the standard anyone would hold us to, because obviously, when there are so many different opinions and belief systems and ways of being that exist on this planet, and we have all been trained to demonize every other point of view, or to just not even see it, because in order to align with our conditioning, we had to buy it. We had to buy it fully. In order to survive, in order to shut down our natural impulses, in order to do the things that aren't true to us, because again, shutting down our natural impulse hurts. Doing things that aren't in alignment with reality hurts. But if it got our needs met in the short term, now our pain-pleasure wires got totally crossed. And then we started to develop these stories of when I do this behavior, I am rejected, so therefore I have to shut down that behavior. That behavior is bad, even if it was never spoken. Even if we were never told, you should feel bad about this. We learned to have guilt and shame in order to keep ourselves in line with things that didn't feel good to us, but that got us accepted. In order to shut down things that felt really good to us, but got us rejected. And this is why the ego death, the actual real ego death that most of us are going to go through, is realizing the person we thought we needed to become to be loved and therefore to survive, we are not ever going to be. That's not who we are. The ego death is, this is how I thought reality worked, and it's not. That's what I was taught. That's how I got my needs met in my childhood. But that doesn't work now in real reality. It may still get me loved and approved of. It may still help me avoid being rejected. But now in adult life, that doesn't actually fill the need. So great, I'm loved, I'm approved of. I still have to eat. I still have to do all these things and figure it out for myself. And this is why we develop all these codependencies of expecting other people to understand us before we even understand ourselves, because that was our caregiver relationship. We expect our romantic partners to read us, like real love, you shouldn't have to say. No, you should. It should not be up to your partner to empath your every little need and to understand it and to give it to you, and then vice versa. It's not your job to empath what everyone else needs. That's not consent. That's not an adult relationship. But most of us think that's what relationships are, because that's what caregiver relationships were. So, the real breaking out of the matrix is realizing you're not going to be approved of, and being okay with that. The real breaking out of the matrix is realizing that approval does not get you your needs met. External approval is not the road to safety. Not anymore. Not as an adult. And now I'm hearing the yeah buts. The yeah but, aren't we interconnected? Someone still needs to like me to give me a job. Someone still needs to like me to give me a house. I can't be completely, fully rejected by all of society and still survive. I do need other people. What are you talking about? Okay, hold on. Everyone's worst nightmare, that when you start to really accept who you are, everyone is going to reject you. Again, that comes from our conditioning, where we believe that everyone is our caregivers. Because that was the conditioning we took on. We filtered out every other way of being, every other person that thinks and feels and acts totally different than our caregivers or our circle of influence when we grew up. They became what Martha Beck calls our generalized other. And now we really believe in our nervous systems that, yeah, if I become my true self, no one will like me. No one will approve of me. No one will give me a job. Because to us, everyone has our conditioning. That's not true. And that's what you're going to discover. When you start to actually become yourself, yeah, you're probably going to lose people. You're going to lose approval from a lot of people, and you're going to think you're going to die. And then you're not. You're going to realize you can be rejected. People can pull out. And you're going to realize, and then I problem solve as an adult, get my needs met in different ways. There are other people who will give me an apartment. There are other people who will give me a job. People who have a totally different conditioning and actually like the real person that I actually am. And I can tell you this from personal experience. I literally have gone through several phases of my life where I was sitting there and I was like, I guess I'm just evil. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, I'm coming to terms with the fact that this is who I am. These are my actual personality traits. These are the things I want to do. These are the things that feel good to me. These are the things that I don't want to do. These are the things that don't feel good to me. I'm evil. I'm just an evil, bad, horrible, terrible, awful person. And I was like, okay, I guess that's it. I guess I'm just awful and horrible and terrible. And I just accepted it. And I was like, I guess if it kills me, it kills me. I guess if being my real self means I'm this horrible, awful person. And guess what? I didn't turn into a horrible, awful, terrible person. I definitely let my caregivers down. I definitely am not anything of what I was trained in my conditioning I had to be. From the Christian church, from my caregivers, my teachers, my conservative, meat-eating, whatever culture I was raised in. I am a complete and utter freak. But I'm doing okay. And I'm not a horrible, terrible, causing harm everywhere I go human being. In fact, I'm pretty empathic. I'm pretty connected. I'm working constantly, right, on being less harmful. I'm figuring it out. But I had to go through that period of just thinking, well, I'm going to die. I'm never going to get my needs met. No one's ever going to love me. I'm going to be alone forever. My sister's here. She can vouch for this. You go through that ego death. I'm never going to be what I was expected to be. I'm never going to not be what I actually am. And my two choices are accept it and see what happens. And that's going to feel like I'm going to die, right? So that's why the mystery school is 235 lessons. Because retraining our nervous systems to be able to accept and embrace and even see what we were conditioned to be and not be, and to see who we really are and all this stuff, your consciousness will hide it from you completely to protect you. So that's why developing that unconditional loving relationship with yourself that you never had with your parents is the key. It's the first step to being able to figure everything else out. When you understand getting love and approval from other people isn't the answer. Loving and approving myself is the foundation for figuring out all the answers, then you are awake from the matrix. Haha. All right, I did it in an hour. Does that make sense? Waking up from the fake, temporary reality of our childhoods, where love and acceptance equaled getting our needs met, and realizing now as an adult, we have the capacity to understand and meet our own needs. We have the capacity to be rejected, be not liked, be misunderstood, and still figure out a different way to get our needs met. Even if it's hard and scary and confusing and we don't know how to right away, then we are free to actually start to say, okay, what's reality? Because that was my biggest thing. It was like, okay, now I'm really starting to see what everyone wants me to do. It's not working. The diet everyone's on, the way everyone else is living, the way everyone else is valuing all these things. Sure, everyone's doing it, and we all agree it's the right thing to do. But it's not getting us the results we want. We're sick. We're not happy. Everyone's sad and miserable. And this is why my caregivers couldn't accept me. Because I just kept being like, yeah, okay, this is stupid. This isn't working. We can't keep doing this. This is a problem. Yes, okay, it gets us accepted. It gets us approved of. We look normal. But we're not happy. It's not working. And they were like, shut up. We would be happy if you would just stop pointing out all these things. These things that you're pointing out don't exist if you're not pointing them out. But they did exist. And you will start to realize, no, I don't feel shitty because I'm shitty and failing at this thing. I feel shitty because this thing is shitty. I feel shitty in this relationship because this relationship is shitty. The way I was taught how to relate isn't the way it is. What I was taught to value doesn't have value. What I was taught to not value does have value. The way everyone is doing all of this thing, the thing that gets me consensus reality approval, makes me sick and sad and scared and not happy. The thing that everyone rejects and thinks is nuts works. That's what's going to start to happen. When you're really awake, that's what it means. You don't rebel from society. You don't rebel. You don't just think everyone around you is stupid and then you just do the opposite. You start to look at, okay, well, what's working about what they're doing? Because there's always something that's working about consensus reality, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. You take what works, you figure out the things that don't, and then you find a better way. And then everyone thinks you're weird and you're like okay with it. And then you find other people who don't think you're weird, who think it's great that you do what you do. Because there's a whole big world out there of a whole bunch of different people who have completely different ways of thinking and reasoning and believing than your caregivers did. But you have to be that support for yourself first, to let yourself take that risk, to jump off the cliff over and over and over again, to try the new thing. Can you give an example of what nuts things works? Okay, again, get off the standard American diet. Don't do dieting at all. Don't eat to make your body look a certain way. Eat and figure out how things feel. How do we rebel from diet culture? How does the food feel inside of your body? What feels good? Don't look for the scientific paper of what's the right way to eat. How does it feel? What are the results you actually get when you follow this plan? Having no diet, no umbrella that you exist under. You just eat based on what feels right in your body at the time. Sounds nuts. With your career, you don't look for your purpose. And this thing, this box you're supposed to, well, I was never on any diet, so I'm nuts. Yes. Good for you. But the main thing again, So like I say, you don't look for your purpose anymore. You stop looking for how to be as ultimately productive and successful and purpose-driven as you possibly can be. And you just start to say, okay, currently, what are my needs? How can I best financially support myself while also exploring the things that I'm interested in right now? I don't have to monetize everything. If I want to monetize something, I can. But I'm just going to continue to explore the things that I'm interested in. And I'm not going to make myself responsible to monetizing all of it. I'm just going to figure out what feels good to do for work from where I'm at and continue to let that evolve. But this is why I said at the beginning, right? It's not really so much about me giving specific examples, because for each and every one of us, it's going to be different at different times. It's the main thing, an example of what's nuts that works. Start to feel what hurts and question it. Instead of questioning yourself, if something hurts, question the foundation of that thing. Where did that come from? Is that how you actually have to do it? Don't blame yourself when you're in pain. That's the main thing I would say. An example of something that's nuts that works. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame someone else. What's not working here? That's a new foundation. Something hurts. What's not working? Does that make sense? Okay. So consensus reality is the fake matrix. Rebelling from consensus reality is an equally fake matrix. Learning how to tap into our pain and pleasure, and yes, it's very complicated because some of our pain and pleasure is consensus reality pain and pleasure, right? It feels good because it gets us accepted. It feels bad because it gets us rejected. That's not necessarily it feels bad because it's not right for us. Sometimes the things that are right for us are going to feel really bad at first. And we have to learn how to dissect the difference between true pain and pleasure and consensus reality pain and pleasure. And usually we do that by observing results. Right? So when I do something that feels bad, is the result an actual negative consequence in reality? Or is the negative result I get rejected? Or I perceive I'm going to get rejected? When I do something that feels good, is it because I got a positive result in real reality? Or is it feels good because I perceive that it's something that people would approve of me for, or I got approval for it? That's something that's nuts, that works. And we start to break ourselves from this idea that if I'm rejected, I'm going to die, by allowing ourselves to get rejected and seeing that we don't die. Seeing that we can get our needs met in a different way. Seeing we can still figure things out, even if we don't know how right away. Huh? The false matrix is that approval is the middleman between you and having what you want. Real reality says, align with real reality. Figure out how to get your need met in a real way that doesn't cause harm to yourself or others. And you'll learn that through pain and pleasure and observation. Right? It's not all esoteric. It's very practical as well. Observe the effects of your actions. Okay, so that's waking up. And like I say, it looks different on all of us because we all have different conditioning. We all have different needs. We all have different things that we're in alignment with and different things we're out of alignment with and that God is approved of and that God is rejected, that are true and false, and it's a different web for all of us. So that's why it's mostly a personal journey. No one can tell you, really. You are the one that determines for yourself based on the results you get and how things feel. Okay? So that's that. I hope that was the matrix in layman's terms. It's still kind of esoteric and it's still hard because it's feeling and we're not used to that. And it's questioning our reality and we're not used to that. It's still complicated. It's still like, right? I can't just shocky pot it at you. But hopefully that gives it some context. Like some direction. Some like, okay, yeah. But it's still hard. It's not going to be easy ever. So that's why I'm saying it over and over again in several different ways. But that's that. Okay? So, you don't need to be approved of in order to survive. It's going to feel like you do, and you're going to feel like you're going to die every time you think you get rejected. And that's why learning that unconditional love first so that you can support yourself through that trigger and show yourself you don't die is the key. So we don't jump straight to doing things that we know are going to get us rejected. We have to build that solid supportive self-love first. So we know we can hold ourselves through what's going to feel like we're going to die. We got to learn how to just love what we are right now without changing. We got to learn to love and approve of what we are right now without changing. First, that unconditional love we never got as children. We need that first. And then we start to challenge ourselves. So this is not simple teaching. This is advanced teaching. But I just wanted to put it out there. All right? So yeah, don't push yourself to do a whole bunch of things when you don't have the foundation of knowing you can support yourself through it. Don't do it. But if you've done that and you feel pretty stable in that and you feel like, okay, I can be rejected and I can think I'm going to die, but then I can show myself real reality, that's when we start to test the waters. Okay, so don't push yourself. You don't have to do it. If you don't want to, don't. But if you do, there you go. There's your next tool. Okay? So that's that. I love you. You're awesome. You're perfect exactly how you are right now. Start with that. Love who and what you are right now. Don't jump to challenging things. Love who and what you are right now. Start to be that parent you never had. Start to be that parent you never had. Start with that. Over and over. Approve of who you are right now. Just that. Every time you ask, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What's the answer? How do I fix this? I have this problem. I have this problem. I have this problem. I have this problem. Come back to loving who you are right now. Keep building that muscle. Everything will come from there. That's my answer to you from now on. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Love who you are right now. When you're ready to challenge it, you'll know and you'll be able to do it. You won't need me to tell you. And until then, just love who and approve of what you are right now. Okay. I said, yay, hour, and now it's an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. See you all next week. Have a fabulous week. You are perfect as you are right here, right now. And I'll see you next week. Mwah.